He cheated, so I decided to destroy his life. I still remember the day my then fiancée and I started talking about our future. Wedding plans, kids, the usual fantasies of a couple who believes they've found their forever partner. We'd been together long enough to feel solid. We weren't just casually dating. We were engaged. I had visions of a nice suburban life, maybe a dog or two, and the little house with the picket fence cliché. There was no inkling that just a few short months later, I'd be staging the ultimate revenge plan for his cheating ways. When we first got together, I was thoroughly swept up in him. He was charming, sweet, and had that bad boy with a heart of gold vibe. Friends teased me that I glowed whenever I mentioned his name. The first few months felt magical. Candlelit dinners, spontaneous road trips, and endless compliments from him that made me blush like a teenage girl. Looking back, I recognized that period as classic love bombing, though at the time I didn't know the term. I just thought I'd found a guy who adored me. He indulged my every whim, sent me flowers at work, texted me sweet nothings throughout the day, played the supportive partner at family events. In short, he expertly painted a portrait of a devoted boyfriend. When he proposed, it wasn't a huge surprise, though it was still a thrill. I said yes with zero hesitation, confident I'd found the one. But as with many relationships, cracks slowly began to appear. Initially, they were overshadowed by the excitement of an upcoming wedding. We'd sit down to talk finances, the grown-up aspect of any union, only to realize we had very different spending habits. He loved big-ticket items, trucks, dirt bikes, gadgets. Meanwhile, I was more practical, wanting to split rent and bills fairly. He was all about showy purchases, from truck upgrades to weekend getaways that cost a fortune. I shrugged it off, telling myself differences in money habits could be worked through. Then there was intimacy. In the early days, he was affectionate, attentive, passionately engaged. Yet, eventually, he seemed to put in minimal effort. If I gave him a playful nudge, hinting we needed more time or variety in the bedroom, he'd laugh it off. Sometimes I suspected I was no longer fully on his radar, but I chalked it up to the everyday lull that hits couples after a year or more together. In the lead-up to our wedding, I tried to keep any anxieties locked away, hoping things would balance out once we found a rhythm as an official married couple. Little did I know the entire foundation was about to crack wide open. In July, just a few months before we'd originally planned to finalize wedding details, my fiancé blindsided me with an announcement. I think I need a break. I need to focus on myself. His tone was apologetic yet firm. He claimed he was feeling overwhelmed by life, finances, job stress, the responsibilities of a future marriage. He told me he needed space to figure things out. At first, I was stunned. A break? We were engaged. People might do breaks in casual dating or high school relationships, but this was an adult relationship planning a legally binding union. Still, I tried to be mature. I was sad, but I cared about him. If he truly needed time, I wanted to respect that. So I said okay, trusting him when he said it was just for a couple weeks. But as those days wore on, I noticed he was hardly around at Owley. He started crashing at a friend's house more nights than not, popping in only to grab clothes or take a shower. When I asked which friend, he'd be vague, calling it some coworker's place. The entire situation felt off, yet I tried to believe him. Maybe he really was stressed. Maybe the wedding deadlines freaked him out. My own insecurities whispered that he might be seeing someone else, but I ignored them until I found that fateful note. One evening, I was tidying up the chaos he'd left behind while half living at our apartment. He'd tossed a bunch of clothes, receipts, and random items in a corner. He wasn't around to claim them, so I decided to sort through it. Among the crumpled t-shirts and an old pay stub, I spotted a folded piece of paper with neat handwriting on it. At first, I thought it might be a grocery list or a note from his job. Then I read a line like, "You're the sweetest guy," followed by more affectionate language. My heart rate accelerated. By the time I reached the signature, "Heart Natty," my pulse was pounding in my ears. That moment was like a punch to the gut. Everything clicked. The friend's house was obviously not some random buddy. He was hooking up with a new flame, presumably a coworker, while we were supposedly on a break. And the heartbreak of discovering that physical proof overshadowed every bit of logic or trust I tried to hold on to. My first reaction: hurt, anger, disbelief. I wanted to confront him immediately, but he wasn't home. My mind swirled, imagining them together in that moment. The rage grew. I also felt a wave of shame, like How could I be so naive? My fiancé was basically living a double life. My sadness evolved into a burning desire for revenge. He's not going to walk away from this unscathed. So I sat down, tears in my eyes, and scrolled social media, looking for an outlet. In my anger, I took a photo of that love note next to a snapshot of him from some earlier event. I found a popular Facebook group known for calling out cheaters, some group with tens of thousands of followers who share stories of infidelity. Without overthinking the moral implications, I posted the pictures along with a short summary. My fiancé told me he needed a break, but turns out has been seeing a coworker named Madi. Here's the love note I found. Within minutes, the post gained traction. People commented, expressing sympathy or anger at him. Some recognized him from his own profile photos. People started tagging others. Soon enough, his family members, co-workers, and yes, the mystery woman herself all saw it. The digital flames spread quickly, his dirty laundry blasted for all to see. He'd never mentioned me to his new co-worker Fling. She was blindsided to learn he was engaged. Furious, she confronted him, demanded answers. Turns out she was a well-known party girl with a wide social circle, the kind of person who's not shy about telling everyone if they've been wronged. She took all the secrets I shared with her about him, like his poor finances, his subpar bedroom performance, his love-bombing routine, and spread them around. She cut him off completely. Because my fiancé prided himself on a squeaky clean public image, the fallout was epic. Rumors flew around his workplace. How he cheats, how he doesn't pay rent, how he's incompetent in bed. Even his last job, where he was a supervisor, got wind of it. Some ex-coworkers trolled him online. Family members started calling him out, letting him know how disappointed they were. His parents, devout churchgoers, apparently had fellow parishioners scold them, saying how shameful his behavior was. It was a tsunami of humiliation. I felt a grim satisfaction. Some might call it petty, but he'd shattered my trust, so I welcomed seeing him squirm. Yet, somehow, even after all that, I still felt a tinge of dissatisfaction. Betrayal is an intense pain, and exposing him on social media didn't fully scratch the itch of revenge. Part of me wanted him to suffer more, but at least, for the moment, I'd burned a big chunk of his social standing. He love-bombed me and then ghosted. He deserved some consequences. By October, I'd moved out of the apartment we once shared. I found my own place, a modest one-bedroom, but it was mine. Freed from living with his chaos, I slowly rebuilt my life. My heartbreak gave me a strange motivation. I started working out more, controlling my diet, and focusing on a better job. Over the next couple of months, I lost weight, dropping from 160 pounds to about 125. I also got a pay raise at work, which boosted my confidence. I was emerging from the darkness. Still, the emotional wounds were fresh. I'd have nights where I'd randomly cry about the future we'd planned. But each morning, I reminded myself, he is not worth the tears. The public fiasco had forced me to talk to friends, vent, and ultimately stand on my own 2 feet. So by the time late October rolled around, I felt a kind of cautious optimism. Yes, I was single again. Yes, I'd been cheated on, but I was discovering new strengths in myself. Then, out of the blue, he texted me. The man who destroyed my trust apparently needed a confidant. He wrote something like, "Hey, I'm not doing great, thinking about filing bankruptcy. I feel so alone." Maybe he assumed I'd swoop in with empathy. Maybe he was fishing for pity. A younger version of me might have caved, wanting to be supportive, but not this time. I'd grown too wise and too angry. So I ignored him. That same night, I ended up sleeping with someone new for the first time since the breakup. It wasn't a grand romance, just a short fling that I guess was partly about reclaiming my body and sense of desirability. But it felt empowering in that moment. I was not his property. I didn't owe him loyalty or tears anymore. As if on a whim, I decided I needed closure. Staring at the ring he'd given me, the symbol of a future that no longer existed, I felt an urge to destroy it. Typically, one might pawn it or tuck it away, but I had a more dramatic plan. Flush it down the toilet. Was it foolish or wasteful? Absolutely, but it also felt like a blazing statement. He can't reclaim me. This promise is gone. I filmed myself dropping the ring into the bowl and hitting flush, watching it swirl away. It was symbolic in a savage way. The diamond might have had some monetary value, but the emotional value was negative. Then, in a move that can only be described as extremely petty, I sent him that video, along with a text telling him, "By the way, I just slept with someone else," plus a sexy selfie showing my newly fit body. Let him see what he missed. Of course, part of me recognized I was stoking the fire, but the betrayal had lit a fuse I couldn't extinguish until I'd unleashed everything. His cheating had crushed me, so in my mind I was returning the favor. Some might call it overkill, but heartbreak rarely follows reason. He freaked out. Predictably, he texted back furious, calling me crazy, vindictive, basically everything but a child of God. He claimed I was cruel for flushing the ring and for bragging about being with someone new. I told him he'd what he sowed. If he'd been honest or at least broken up with me cleanly, he could have walked away with dignity. Instead, he lied and cheated behind my back. So, as far as I was concerned, he had no high ground to stand on. He was already in a bad place. His finances were in shambles, friends had turned on him, the new girlfriend left him, and his family was disappointed. Now I'd hammered the final nail, letting him know I was thriving without him. I guess he found it all too much. He blocked me eventually, or so I heard from mutual acquaintances. I haven't tried contacting him since, but occasionally I hear updates like how he's binge-watching entire TV series to numb his misery. That might be his coping mechanism, as I'd heard he plowed through the entire ANSYS from start to finish in record time. Even with all this, a little part of me wonders if I was too harsh. Did I take it too far, humiliating him publicly and personally? But I also recall the nights I sobbed, feeling worthless. The memory of reading that love note. The heartbreak of losing the future I'd pinned my hopes on. That pain was deeper than any revenge I inflicted. Oh no, I don't regret my actions much. If anything, maybe it taught him to think twice before cheating again. Cheating isn't just about the act of sleeping with someone else. It's about betrayal of intimacy, trust, and emotional safety. When I found that note from Maddie, I didn't just see the words on paper. I saw the reflection of every time I kissed him, believed in him, or told others he was my forever. The heartbreak is layered. Self-doubt. Am I not enough? Shattered illusions and the blow to your sense of stability. People don't always grasp how deep that wound goes, especially in the context of an engagement. I might come off as a woman scorned out for blood, but the revenge path wasn't planned. It emerged from feeling powerless and humiliated. At first, I just wanted him to understand the depth of my hurt. But once I posted his cheating in that Facebook group and saw the wave of condemnation roll in, I felt a relief. I realized part of me wanted the world to see him for who he really was. No more illusions. Of course, there's a moral debate about public shaming. Some argue it's unhealthy or puts you in a negative headspace. Others say a cheater deserves exposure. In my case, it was cathartic, though I wouldn't recommend it to everyone. I did it because I was angry and wanted immediate public accountability for him. In a kinder world, maybe we'd have parted ways privately, but heartbreak can make you do things you never imagined you'd do. In that Facebook group, the post received hundreds of comments. Some called me a queen for standing up for myself. Others questioned if I'd gone too far, but I do remember seeing his relatives responding. His aunt wrote something like, "I can't believe he'd do this to you. He promised us he'd be faithful." Ouch, a coworker wrote. So that's why he left early every Friday. Another posted a screenshot of texts he'd sent her that hinted at more hidden flirtations. It became an avalanche of revelations, none flattering to him. Maddie came across as an innocent party who'd been manipulated, so she received a wave of sympathy. She texted me, at first upset, demanding to know if I was truly his fiancé. She apologized for being the other woman and insisted she had no idea he was engaged. Over the next few days, we swapped stories, piecing together timelines. That's when I told her about his bedroom issues, like the two-stroke wonder problem, and how he never seemed to care about pleasing me. She nearly gagged, texting back that he was the same with her. We parted ways with a weird sense of sisterhood, both of us feeling like we dodged a bullet. He worked at a decent job, though not super high-paying, where he'd started only a few months prior. With the new fling also from that workplace, gossip spread quickly. People teased him behind his back. Some might think that's juvenile, but offices are social arenas, and a scandal about a coworker cheating tends to ignite whispers. Meanwhile, his previous job found out, apparently because he'd left on good terms, but had some old colleagues who still followed him on social media. They saw the post, recognized the note, and word traveled fast. He prided himself on being a stand-up guy, or so he claimed. So imagine the blow to his ego, seeing coworkers snicker or hearing them mention his fiasco. Some even questioned whether they should trust him. He was basically persona non grata for a while. His parents belonged to a church that emphasized moral virtue, faithfulness, and community. News of his affair spread through that circle. People confronted his parents with, "We're so sorry about your son's choices," or, "I thought he was engaged." This is so sad. It put them in an awkward spot, having to defend or condemn him. They likely tried to do damage control, but the rumor mill in a church community can be ruthless. Sunday potlucks probably felt tense. I learned from mutual acquaintances that he was deeply humiliated by the entire ordeal. For a man who spent half his paycheck making sure his truck looked pristine, image was everything, and now that image was irreparably tarnished. Did I feel sorry for him? A sliver, maybe, but mostly, I felt a sense of righteous payback. In the months following the meltdown, I didn't just wallow. I channeled my anger and sadness into bettering myself. I started a more rigorous workout routine and fine-tuned my nutrition. The weight loss from 160 to 125 pounds wasn't about pleasing someone else, but reclaiming my confidence. Each gym session reminded me I was building a stronger, more resilient me, someone who wouldn't let heartbreak define her. Emotionally, I sought therapy to process the betrayal. That helped me confront the layers of betrayal and relearn how to trust. Maybe not him, but humanity in general. My therapist pointed out that I'd taken power back by exposing him, though she cautioned me about letting vengeance overshadow my future relationships. She wasn't condoning my approach, but she understood where it came from. Around the same time, an opportunity arose at work for a promotion. Ordinarily, I might have hesitated, feeling too stressed by personal drama, but I realized nothing was holding me back now. No fiancé to consult, no overshadowing negativity at home. I went for it and got a significant pay raise. That gave me the financial freedom to upgrade my living situation. A small but modern apartment in a part of town I'd always liked. Little by little, each piece of my life fell into place. The bitterness about my ex existed, sure, but it became a smaller part of who I was. Sometimes I'd think back on the whole fiasco and laugh at the extremes. A love note, a Facebook expose, raging coworkers. It felt almost like a soap opera. Then, as if pulled by a cosmic thread, he texted me. The first contact in months. I remember seeing his name flash on my phone screen. My stomach flipped. Did he want to apologize? Or was he about to spew venom? Turned out he wrote something like, "Hey, can we talk? I'm in a bad place. Might have to file bankruptcy. Everything's falling apart." The old me would have melted, offering a listening ear. But this new version of me, newly confident and still holding on to that memory of being cheated on, simply felt revulsion. How dare he come to me for sympathy after all that? I refused to respond. Some might call that cold, but I felt a mix of anger and disinterest. He'd made his bed, so to speak. Let him lie in it. I had no interest in playing caretaker to a man who humiliated me. The message sat there, unanswered. That same evening, somewhat ironically, I ended up hooking up with someone new. We'd been casually flirting and I felt a spark. I guess it was my final step in moving on. The experience was not about love or long-term plans, but about reclaiming my sexuality and proving to myself that I wasn't bound by the ghosts of my ex-you. Afterward, I felt lighter, like I'd taken a definitive step away from the old relationship. So, spurred by that confidence, I decided to let my ex know exactly how little power he had over me. I stared at his engagement ring for a long time, remembering the day he proposed and the fleeting joy that followed. It was all a lie now. So I placed it over the toilet and pressed record. I watched the ring swirl away in the flush, capturing that moment in a short video clip. Drastic. Absolutely. But it felt symbolic, like discarding the final tether to a broken promise. Then I texted him. I attached the video, typed a quick message, "Enjoy your bankruptcy because we're done for good. Also, I'm sleeping with someone else now. Good luck." For emphasis, I included a selfie, a shot that highlighted my new physique. Possibly the most savage message I've ever sent. But at the moment, it felt justified. This was the man who had had me in tears, who risked our entire relationship for a cheap fling. He needed to see that I was not groveling at his feet. Unsurprisingly, he replied with anger. He called me names, accused me of being insane. said I was humiliating him even more. I retorted that it was nothing compared to how he humiliated me when I discovered that love note. The conversation quickly devolved into him ranting about how I had no right to destroy the ring. But I just blocked him. I was done. Enough drama. Let him stew in the bed he made. A lot of people might read this and think, wow, that's really harsh. Maybe it is. Cheating is painful. But the steps I took, exposing him publicly, telling the other woman every embarrassing detail, destroying a ring that presumably had monetary value, might come across as extreme. I've had friends say, why not just walk away quietly? And maybe they're right, but heartbreak can twist you up inside. When you learn the person you love deceived you so thoroughly, it triggers a need for restitution. I don't claim this path is healthy for everyone. Some might handle infidelity by calmly leaving and focusing on self-healing. I was too angry. I needed him to feel a fraction of the betrayal I felt. I wanted him to lose face among coworkers, be the subject of gossip, and confront the lie built around being a stand-up fiancé. So yes, I unleashed everything, and oddly enough it helped me move on faster. Maybe that's a lesson in itself. Not all healing is gentle. Sometimes it's messy and retributive. Of course, I still believe therapy and reflection are key afterward to ensure you don't stay in that vengeful headspace forever. From what I gather through mutual acquaintances, he's borderline broke due to his extravagant spending habits. The coworker flame Maddie left him in a swirl of drama, telling everyone he's not worth the trouble. He rarely socializes with old friends. He's devouring TV series like an addict, possibly as an escape from reality. He mentions filing bankruptcy, likely because he's juggling truck payments, dirt bike installments, and possibly credit card debt. Whether he's truly learned not to cheat is anyone's guess. Maybe he's just bitter, blaming me for ruining his life. But let's be clear, he made the choice to cheat. I simply made sure he faced consequences. As for me, life is quite good. I'm in a new place, paying rent comfortably due to my raise, maintaining a healthier lifestyle, physically and mentally. Open to dating, but not rushing into anything. Surrounded by supportive friends who saw the meltdown and have championed me to stand tall. Sometimes I look back on the entire saga with a strange blend of humor, regret, and acceptance. Humor, because it was so over-the-top dramatic. Regret, because maybe there was a more constructive way to handle it. Acceptance, because that's how it unfolded, and I can't change it now. The ring is literally gone, and the cheater is figuratively in my rearview mirror. One silver lining: I found out how strong I can be. The heartbreak and subsequent revenge taught me that I won't crumble when faced with betrayal. Instead, I'll take action, albeit intense. So yes, I'm grateful in a twisted way for the experience. It showed me not to accept less than I deserve. Next time I sense a partner acting shady, I'll confront it head-on. No illusions. If someone reading this is dealing with a cheating partner, I won't say, go do exactly what I did. Everyone's path is unique. However, don't blame yourself. Cheaters cheat because of their own shortcomings, not because you lack something. Channel your anger wisely. If you choose a route like I did, exposure, confrontation, be aware it has consequences. Are you prepared for the fallout? Focus on your growth. Whether or not you get revenge, ensure you come out stronger, healthier, and clearer about what you want in future relationships. Seek support. Friends, family, or therapists can help you navigate the chaos of a broken engagement. Don't isolate yourself in heartbreak. In the end, the story is as follows. My fiancé cheated. I found undeniable proof. I broadcast it to the world, humiliating him. The coworker also dumped him after hearing the truth. He turned into an object of ridicule among friends, colleagues, even his own family's church. I left him behind, lost weight, advanced in my career, and ultimately found closure through a final act of pettiness, flushing the engagement ring and telling him I'd moved on sexually. Do I think he deserved worse? Maybe in my darkest anger, yes. But realistically, I think the lesson he got was enough. Cheating can blow up your entire life. Next time he tries to sweet-talk someone into an affair, he might remember how it ended last time. Conclusion: cheating is never victimless. It often triggers heartbreak, anger, and sometimes dramatic retribution. My story is just one example. An extreme reaction to an extreme betrayal. I'm not proud of every tactic I used, but I also can't deny it gave me a sense of justice. I share it so others might see how messy heartbreak can get, and how even savage revenge can be a path to healing. But behind the drama is a simple message. If you cheat, you might just face the consequences. And if you're cheated on, you're not powerless. Sometimes you can blow up their world even more than they blew up yours. In the end, I hope no one else has to flush a ring or expose a fiancé on Facebook. But if you do, do it with your head held high. And remember that after all the dust settles, your own growth and happiness matter more than any petty feud. I'm living proof that after betrayal, you can thrive, perhaps with a bit of vengeance along the way.